Splendid Spreads.
Taste this! On to a great seafood recipe that I have coming up here, my version of a seafood roll. Now you've heard the lobster roll. Well, we're doing a seafood roll today using a couple of ingredients, starting with our gluten-free rolls from Better Batter. And then we also have our Splendid Spreads, our salmon spread today, in which we're going to be using it to incorporate it in our seafood roll. To get started, we're going to simply salt our seafood here, and then we're going to put it on a grill. So we're going to take our salt. Here we're using some sea salt. Just gently going to put a good amount on one side. You can do both sides if you want. I mean, that's just basically a salt both sides. Sometimes you're over salting. And we're just going to take a little bit of crushed black pepper over the top. And we're just going to take a little bit of oil and put it over the top. And with the spoon or your finger, just glide some of the oil around like so. This will prevent anything, if it does stick, even though it probably won't. We're going to take our salmon, go right onto the grill, and then we're going to take our scallops and put them as well. Now, the reason why I'm grilling it is, you know, I want the seafood to have a nice grilled flavor, but I also don't want it to retain any moisture because it's going to be mixed with a remoulade sauce that we're going to make, or you could say a mayonnaise-based sauce that's actually going to mix this seafood up and going to be put on our bread. Now we're going to get started on our remoulade sauce. Today we are going to be using a mayonnaise as our base, and we're going to actually use some Dijon. You have to use a good mustard for this. Don't be using like, you know, deli mustard or something like that. Use a strong mustard, something that really gets to your nose. We're going to put a nice strong Dijon mustard in there. Because it really, when you're doing this type of sandwich, you need a little bit of a bite. Now, I made some really delicious sun-dried tomato pesto that is really, really nice. I have some basil in there, some thyme, some roasted tomatoes. I make my own sun-dried tomatoes. I roast them in the oven overnight. I cut them in half with some olive oil, some herbs. And what we're going to do is just put a little bit in there. And this is coming together really nicely. Now, next we have some salmon. That I have here, jarred, really good quality salmon. We're going to be putting in there. And we're going to mix this up gently. This is just the base. I mean, people could eat this by itself. This is just our base here. And our base is good. It's not too runny. It's nice and thick. And this is what we're going to use to coat our seafood and put in our roll. Now, as I was talking to you before, you know, when making these types of things with seafood and what have you, we have to make sure that there's no moisture. So, you know, in cooking our wonderful seafood here on the grill, this will help us in achieving the kind of sandwich that we want. All right, so we have our remoulade here. We're going to put that off to the side. Next, we're going to get our seafood ready. All right, now we're going to turn our seafood over. All right, so I've taken the seafood off the grill. So what we're going to do now to get started is break the seafood off. The seafood has cooled. Now you can do a couple of things. You can chop this up. I generally like everything broken. I like whole pieces. So like if you take a small scallop like that, just putting it in half is fine with me. Remember to take out the muscle on the side of the scallop. And what we're going to do is take our shrimps, and these are not too big. I mean, these are U12s. We're just going to put them in the mayonnaise like so, or I could say remoulade mixture, however you feel comfortable. And notice what I was talking about earlier about no moisture. You know, you're going to have the flavor of the seafood, but it's not going to be a sloppy mess. And next we'll just take a piece of our salmon here. We don't need all of it for right now, but we're just going to take it and break it. And it's wonderful. And the reason why I like to do salmon on a Kenyan grill like this is because you get even cooking. So what we're going to do is take this, move this here, wash our hands. And we're just going to give this a mix. And this looks great. This looks really wonderful. And you're going to see when I mix this that it's going to retain the thick consistency that I want. I'm not looking for a runny, sloppy mess. And a couple of people make this mistake when you go into a restaurant and you get this lobster roll. It's too runny. The bread becomes too soggy and there's no flavor. All right, what we're going to do is put this now on. We got the two types of salmon in here, which are really good. And that's what I'm talking about, right in there like so. Excellent. And, you know, listen, this is, If you think, but let's say you did make this and it was a little too thin, your dressing here, and you say, man, what am I going to do now? Just take a little bit of rice flour. You should always have a little bit in the container in the house somewhere. Take a little rice flour and just mold it and it'll soak it up. Take a little breadcrumbs. Breadcrumbs might work too. Just make sure whatever you're putting in there is not seasoned already, because you don't want to take away from the wonderful seasoning that you have here, and start getting crazy and adding all this other stuff. I mean, here you have it. That's what I'm talking about. Seafood roll. So here you have it, my version of a seafood roll done right. So my friends, family, and everyone far across the world, including parts of the world like Brooklyn, thank you for watching this wonderful show. Until next time, I'm your host, Chef Joseph Seminary. Remember, there are no rules in cooking. Taste this.